Hi, it's Martin from Martin's Engine Services. Well, sitting on the bench in front of me is going to be today's teardown video. However, first of all, I must show you the fantastic news. Yep, some more tea, that's not the news. I have reached this morning 20,038 views. It was about to turn over last night and it was about 19 short, and I was like, yes, and this is it. So I am so delighted with that. That's another big milestone. When I got to the first 1,000 was incredible. I never thought it would get that far. But that is just astonishing. There's been a lot of views picked up in the last few weeks. So especially on some of the older videos. So I'm saying few new subscribers. So great. So to anybody who's watching this, who's a regular, thank you so much. It means so much to me to have got this far. It really is an incredible achievement. I never thought it would go this far in such a short time. So it's kind of humbling when you think about that. And I've been contacted by people, and I've had people join from basically all over the world, which is, again, it's quite a humbling experience. So that's just, I can't really put into words how fantastic it is. So I suddenly had the notion today for something a bit different. It's probably going to be a two-part of this. I thought, I've got another engine we can take apart. Now this is the original engine from my Morris Minor. So this was the engine that left the factory in 1955. This is the very first version of the A series, which was first fitted into the Series 2 cars in 53, I think, 53 when the Series 2 came out, or 51. It was early 50s anyhow. The model before, which was known as the Series MM, had a very ancient side valve engine, which is the pre-war Austin engine. And they then used this engine from the Austin A30 when BMC was formed. It was about 53-ish. BMC was formed, and Austin and Wolseley and Morris went together. They then lifted this engine from the A30, made a few changes, and fitted it to the Series 2 Morris Minor. So it's 803cc. I remember rightly, it was about 29 or 30 brake horsepower. So somewhat underpowered, shall we say. It was quite a fragile engine, basically, because the crankshaft and bearings were known to fail, and they didn't do huge mileages before they needed work. But I mean, I think the flat out, this thing was about 55 odd mile an hour, maybe 60 miles an hour. Now I do know that this engine had been to the continent on occasion, because the my car actually have some documents of Continental insurance with it and bits and pieces, where the lady who owned it for 46 years did actually go abroad with it. So this poor little engine may have taken my old car a lot of places. So it's a little bit dusty and a bit cobwebby. I mean, it was in a greenhouse when I collected my car. The guy said, "Do you want the original engine?" I was like, "Wow, we'll have that." So I have never taken this apart. It's been sitting, and this is how it came, because I think he painted it. I think I'll put a couple of gaskets just to, I don't know why, but there you go. So I thought I'm going to have this apart and have a good look at it and see what it's like. Now, some of the differences between the Austin A30 and the Morris Minor version, we've got plate bolted on here, because the A30 had a mechanical fuel pump. Of course, these had the SU electric. There was some other slight differences. No, not a lot. So I'm trying to think here. I might get some of this wrong on the history of the old A series. But in the very early version, this doesn't have what they call a full flow oil system. This is like a partial flow, that the oil is pumped up through the oil pump, which lives in the back cover here, and then some of the oil is pumped to the filter. What doesn't, a bypass, that's it, bypass filter system. Whatever doesn't go through the filter goes directly back to the engine, so it's not running on all filtered oil. The later engine, like mine serviced the other day, has the filter hanging down on the bracket here, an external feed pipe to a casting here, which feeds it, is the high pressure feed to it. Oil pressure release valve sits here, that's the same as the later engine. The general layout is the same. The 803 and 948cc use a pressed steel backplate, But the 1098 and the 1275 version use a solid steel plate. There were some variations in flywheel thicknesses. There's a lot of variations over the years. A lot of parts will interchange. Don't quote me on what will and won't. I've never really tried. Most of the A series were pretty similar to right to the end of production. Although the oddity, I suppose, was the Metro Maestro version with the oil filter sat here. There's a casting here, oil filter sat there, and there was no external filter or bracketry or pipework here at all. Obviously differences in the heads, bigger valves, some run leaded. They changed the rocker shaft several times and bits and bobs. But fundamentally, the A series remained pretty much the same. They even made a diesel version of it, a 950 odd cc diesel for the Nuffield tractor. Be a fascinating curio. Oh, there's that plug here. I did mention the video on lubrication on mine that you take out and prime the oil pump. That's the where the pickup comes up from the sump. You can prime it. That's actually a block drain for the coolant. So, say I have never ever ventured into this engine, so I don't really know what it's like. But I do know if you turn it over, definitely something is a rattling in the bottom. Oh yes, definitely something not well. So I'm kind of guessing that this probably did potentially 70 odd thousand plus miles. I don't know how many miles the replacement engine they fitted into mine had. I mean, mine's now 1098cc, but I don't know. No, I'm guessing a good 70,000 to say the least. So I think the old lady took it up to, or previous owner, original owner took it up to 70 something. So yeah, given the fact that back in that day there, if you got more than about 30,000 miles out of an engine, it considered you'd done well without a rebore and a rebuild or a crank grind. I mean, when people got to 50, you'd done well. I do have some very old car magazines from the 50s, and there's a big feature in one of them that some guy got to like 90,000 miles on his Ford Consul, and there was a big feature on this astonishing event on the original engine. So they used to sell back in the day some like special piston rings you put in because of the bore wear and lots of stuff. I mean, technology in oil's moved on a long way, so it's kind of interesting to look back. However, I'm going to put this in the stand and we'll dig out the old Imperial spanners and sockets, and we shall start dismantling this and just see what it's like. I'm rather curious. In fact, I think there's no oil in it. That sounds like there's no oil in it. Doing this one on the bench, because mounting this on an engine stand is obviously difficult, because you've got the metal back plate needs to come off to get it on there. Then you've got to get to this, and there's a bearing plate here, and it's easier to do these on the bench. You could put it on a stand or a side bracket, but I haven't got one, so we'll do it this way. Anyhow, let's get set up and let's begin. Right, let's start by pulling the old rocker cover off. I'm going to put me in robbing this. As you can see, there's a few bits missing and various bits and pieces, so nicked a few washers off it and whatnot. Right, here we go. Blimey, I think that's baked itself on there. Oh. A bit of rust from storage there. Look. Yeah, not too hideous. Now, to see if all the valves actually do anything. I mean, some of them may be stuck. It's been sitting there so long. So, oh, yeah. Yeah. There's definitely some bad noises because the crank goes out, it's going clonk, bang, clonk. So, I mean, still have the plugs in actually. Okay. Now to get the head off one of these, the actual rocker shaft is retained by its own 4 bolts and also uses some head bolts, which is doubly sort of, not really a pain, but if you want to take the rocker shaft off, you run the risk of disturbing the head. Let's pop those plugs out for a laugh and have a look. Where's the plug socket? Oh, they are loose. Let's see what they have to say. I mean, these might not be the ones that will last running the engine, I have no idea, but they're pretty normal. There may be some that I stuck in there, I just can't remember. I do know when we was getting this engine out of the guy's allotment, it was quite funny because the one or two of the other people working on their Veach patches were watching these 2 guys dragging an engine across the allotment on a sack barrow, and they must have been thinking, what are those 2 maniacs doing? It was quite amusing. Yeah. Plugs look all right. I mean, I don't know how many years, I think, oh, I'll tell a lie. I mean, I think the car had been laid up. I've had it since late 2014. And I think the car had been laid up for 4 or 5 years before that. So the engine's obviously, well, actually, I have a receipt for that new engine. Yeah, I guess it's been in there about 20 years then. Right, let's start undoing a few of the bits off the top here and see what's what. You only need a handful of basic tools to take these to pieces. But typical of the Austin and BMC engines of the period, they like a lot of bits. There's lots of nuts, bolts, washers, bits and pieces, plates, and you've got this backing plate, another bit there, another bit there. The front's the same. There's a lot of parts in their engines. And there's some special washers. There's a special washer here on the rocker shaft, and in fact this one's got the special washer on all of them. So yeah, along the way there's been a lot of tank changes, design changes, specifications, slight modifications. You've really got to watch it. I mean, some people obviously still got this engine in if you've got a real period one. I mean, it wouldn't make it that usable. They deliberately geared it down as well to help it get going. So I suppose at the time it was quite that said something. I suppose at the time it was quite an advanced engine. The cylinder head nuts on these are never tight because they're only done up to about 45 foot-pounds, so they're not astonishingly tight. Oh, it flies off the bench. Survived 70 years, and then Martin smashes it on the floor. If it didn't have all them horrible rattlings and knockings in the bottom, I've got nearly enough parts to actually start this engine up, and I think it'd be quite good fun, but I don't think the bottom end's any good. It'd be quite good. I've got a manifold, and obviously I've got a carburetor and distributor and stuff, so they're scarily loose. Okay. Well, we did try that one. The socket gets caught up on the rocker, that's it. It would appear that all the head bolts along the nuts on this side weren't that tight, which is not a good thing. I mean, it's possible the guy who owned this car had this head off. I mean, someone may have had it off to have a look. I mean, who's ever going to know after all this time what we've got? Nobody. It's all a bit of conjecture. So, all fine threaded AF nuts. Some of the high performance and Cooper engines and whatnot did have an additional head stud down the front. I think it's 1275 GT did, and there's different block thicknesses and different flange thicknesses on there, and there's so many changes. There's been a lot of CCs as well. There's 948, there's 998, I think 1070, 977 in the Coopers, and there's so many versions. It goes on and on and on. Right, let's see if we get this grimy little chap off. I don't know why we still got... Yeah, the cork rocker cover gasket seems to have fossilised. Now there's those special plates on the rocker shaft. Now that's designed as a little tag there that locks the rocker shaft to the pedestal. If you haven't got that there, the rocker shaft can rotate and blank off the oil ways, and this plate is designed to, one way around, to do that. From factory they've laid them on all of them. Surprisingly not as bad as you'd expect considering. The pads have got a little bit of pitting on them, a little bit of wear, bit on that one. You can stone them off and whatnot, but they still will tap. It's pretty standard for an A series. They like a few little characterful sort of taps and rattles, shall we say. Right, let's move these out of the way because we're going to get a lot of bits. Now normally you'd keep the push rods in order, but pull these out and have a look. Shake the cam followers off the end. This is alright because some, yeah, you think on everything apart from the 1275 you've got side covers. So if you want to change a cam follower, you drop one, you can get to it. There's push rods. I don't suspect it's wrong with them. Usual bit of wear on the end. They get like a little wear pip in the end there. They could be machined or stoned again, I suppose. Right then. Obviously there's no water pump on this. You haven't got the little rubber bypass hose. If anybody knows A series, knows the fun of a bypass hose. Now, well, we have separation. Quite a heavy little cylinder head this, and it's a very heavy little engine. It may not look it, but it's quite a lump. Imagine the B series engine, the cylinder head's like that long. Now that is heavy. When you get into the C series 6 cylinders, well, that's an engine crane job. Ooh. Oh, head gaskets come with the head. We'll have a look at the head in a moment. Come back to that. Wildlife coming out of it. Now, as you can see how small the cylinder bores are, and the tiny little things. How do they feel? Yeah, quite a wear ridge. Yeah, quite a wear ridge there. Not hideous. Now let's see what's a rattling in the bottom here. Let's do the old scientific test. Oh, I think it could be number 4 because it seems to be a little bit behind the show. So we go over and bring it down. Oh dear, you will see that. Yeah, it's not getting to the top. You go over. Oh, one's all right. Come over the top. Oh dear. There seems to be about 2 mil of movement in that one. It's quite funny because if you turn it slowly, you can actually watch the delay. You see the delay between the two. Ooh. I think we've had a fairly spectacular big end or crankshaft failure there looking at that, folks. Right. What I'll do, I'll hold proceedings for now so it'll go on forever, and I'll take this back plate off. And I suppose these will come out, we'll lay it on this side. And I'll have a peer inside these tappet chests as well, out of curiosity, to see what these look like. This can always be quite gungy in here. Gives you some idea because all the old oil returns to the crankcase via the pushrod holes. Yeah, it's not too hideous considering it's about normal. It's got that lovely old smell of an old engine. And there's the cam followers. Actually very clean. In fact, very, very clean. I mean, obviously you don't get heaps of oil up the top, but it's more than enough. Well, they're very good. I mean, judging by the fact that she owned it all those years, I'd imagine this had a lot of maintenance. Oh, now that one's got a bit of a dent worn in it. Yeah, that one's got, yeah, and it's worn through the hardening, I think. No, it's a bit of dirt, I think. Yeah, that one's got quite a ridge worn in that one. Don't know if that shows up exactly. Yeah, you can just see that sort of shape in the bottom of it. That one's pretty much had it. In fact, I might just take all these out. I don't think it matters what order these go back in, because this will be put back together again and stuck back in this shed. It certainly wouldn't go to all the expense of reconditioning it, because the parts for the 803 are very, very expensive. I think the big end shells for the standard engine like I'm using, the 1098, are about £15 a set. For these, nearly £100 a set, because they're kind of unique. The 948, 1098 and all the others tend to use a lot of common size bearings. This is quite unique. Yeah, another one there. And also on these, the camshaft that runs through here only has one replaceable bearing. It runs in the block. So that's another point that can be an issue with these. Yeah, they got wear on them, but not hideous. There's only one really bad one so far. Yeah, one really bad one and one borderline. Not as much sludge in here as you'd expect, actually. All pretty encouraging. So I'll hold things for now, pop the back plate off. I'll pop the timing cover off, spin it round and show you a view of that. Right, well there's the back plate off. It's fairly simple, obviously just lots and lots of bolts. There is a gasket that lives in here, which is very important because that has to seal the outer part of this to the back plate. I think it should be a bit more. Oh, it fell off. Just to seal that. Incorporated into the back plate is this cover for the oil pump, and that does have a tendency on some to leak, and some people to braze them on. This one actually be dry inside there, considering. That shows you the testament to this old steel. I mean, to my mind, this has never been off this engine. Everything seems to be perfectly original, and that doesn't look like it's ever been painted, so that's quite impressive. Now the oil pump sits in the back of the block here, and the end of the oil pump has a slot in which engages in the cam. There are some that have other types with cross drives and splines, and there's a lot of different versions of the oil pump. I think they're pretty interchangeable once you match the drive up. There is a gasket here, which is very important, which seals the pump against the block. It obviously will cause oil pressure problems. Now this has never been off because it's still got the original locking tag. You have to bend the tag over to get the bolts out, and that is all original. And likewise, the timing cover, I don't think this has ever been off. You see how clean it is. It's got all its correct spacing plates and reinforcers in all the right places. Later version engine, say later, I think the original one had a felt seal, and in about 54 odd they changed to the rubber seal. So Yeah, that's in incredible condition. The oil pump itself has just coming on that side. Yeah, the oil pump itself has got very little scoring inside here, and this is aluminium. Slight discoloration, but there is some scoring on the bottom. The actual sides are very good. Now the outer part of the rotor does have, you can probably hear that, there's quite a bit of scoring. But none of it's deep and none of it's horrible. It quite possibly would still be serviceable. Now the inner part of the rotor, again, it's got hardly any marking on here whatsoever. Now the actual fit in there, maybe a couple of, I suppose you only pick it as a couple of thou, but it's certainly not above the acceptable tolerance. And the play there, as good as nothing. The cover, a couple of marks where the rotor's run, but really isn't anything you'd say is wrong with that at all. It's actually brilliant. Who made this? Could it be Cam Gears or Hoban Eaton? Hoban Eaton. They made a lot of oil pumps and hydraulic pumps and stuff through the years. How do we get back together? Right. Well, I think the oil pump is actually still good. I'd imagine this must have, had a lot of oil changes to be this good. There's a bit of sludge built up here because obviously the oil can't get out of here very easily. It's going to run cool there, so that's the problem with these old engines. Right, let's move a few bits out the way and we'll have a look at the front half. Stick all this lot back together in a minute. Right, let's rotate that. Great thing about these engines, flat bottom sump, doesn't fall off the bench. This rather intriguing design here, it is a big wire hose clip. And this is designed to stop the oil filter falling off. You undo this clip and then you can just undo the filter. It doesn't do up that tight, it stays a bit loose. You see that all right? Yeah. And on the block itself is a little tag they just bolted on to run up against this somehow. Yeah, they just put a little metal tag on the block to stop it falling off. I guess they must have had a bit of a problem with this design. You can see what I mean about that small volume of oil. You've got the hole here and a hole over there. One's obviously in, one's out. I don't know which is the order, and that is the filter. You've no idea what's in it. So probably 50% of the oil never gets filtered. There's no real way of converting this either because there's no easy solution. I think actually what they used to do was make an adapter plate that goes on. That's right, there's an adapter plate goes on here, and then you can screw a conventional filter on or a cooler. That's right. Yeah, there was an adapter. Nice old thing. That Fram model number. Look at that. Oil cleaner, not oil filter. Made in Great Britain. Nice old thing in its own right. This looks like a factory special where they used to fall off and thought, oh, that'll do. Now on the timing chain on these is the old single row simplex. Usual amount to play. Later ones can have it. You can fit a 2-row type. You can fit a tensioner type. They all seem to rattle a bit. On mine, I've just got a simple chain. Don't think this has the rubber. Yeah, it does. There's rubber pads in here that help the rattle, but it's kind of period. So the next stage in the operation is you've got to get this giant nut undone, and then this front plate. Can stay on? I think. Can't remember. No, I've got to take the front plate off because the crank comes through it. More bolts, more locking washers, more locking tags. Yeah, you get a lot of that. There's a lot of things like that to undo. Trying to remember now, it's been a while. Looking at the cylinder bores, I'd imagine this was running for quite some time with a blown head gasket, because there's real signs here of the coolant gone round, and there's actually watermarks in there that look like it's been running in the past. It doesn't look like condensation from storage. I think the head gasket definitely doesn't want to leave the chat. Cool. I think this head may have been skimmed actually. Why is that stuck on there so tight? Here we go. Oh, it's one of those composite ones. Yeah, it's one of those composite ones. Yeah, looking at this, look at this here. Yeah, I would say, get that up in shot. Right, stand the head up here. Looking at the surface of his head, it looks like it's been skimmed at some point in the past, because that's got like, doesn't look like factory grinding marks, and that's definitely not the original head gasket. The original head gasket would have been copper for certainty, at least one side, and composite. This is just like a modern replacement. There's the oil hole there, which is on mine, is where I seem to always get the oil leak. I don't know why. So the top of my block's fine, the head's been decked, but it weeps right in that corner. It runs all the way along that seam there, round the back and down. And I don't bother about it anymore. Well, it seems to have been doing its job quite well. This side we know was definitely stuck. There's some slight corrosion there, but I think that's just from standing here and just see that water. Just a bit of general corrosion. Yes. Although looking at it, yeah, I think what's happened here, it had a head gasket gone at some point quite badly. There is a little bit of a ridge just in places. Not there, but here you can feel a slight dip in the iron next to the edge of the cylinder. I was looking at this closely. It looks like it might have started to pull water through this area, because on the cylinder head, around this here, yeah, you can see it was water coming through there and into there. Hence the rust on the valves, and that probably explains why the cylinder bores have got water staining. So what it really needed was the block decking as well as the head. So, yeah, I think that was what happened there. Yeah, there's quite a lot of staining in the bores. I guess water was dripping into the bores while it was stationary and just beading around there and then just stained them. So that's what probably needs that decking. So I clean that old piston is. You had the logo on there. It says I think it was Morris Wolsey Group. That's it. It was. You get the MO from Morris, the WO from Wolsey, and G for Group. So it says Moog, and it's Morris Wolsey Group, which is what it was called after. It was then it became BNC. So yeah, Wolsey and Morris went together, and then Austin joined to form BMC, or the British Motor Corporation. So that's what it was first. So over the years, it become British Motor Corporation, British Leyland Vehicles, BLMC, British Leyland Motor Company, and all the other versions till it finally finished at Rover. Right, I'll just pop that off, pop that front plate off, and see what happens in there. Right, well, that's got the timing chain off. The big nut didn't put up much of a fight. In there's actually rubber, like rubber O-rings, and the idea is they sort of tension the chain. It works quite well, so it works on mine all right. There's no reason, I don't think this has ever been apart. The chain's actually in very, very good condition. Likewise, the sprockets are pretty good, they're not sharp. Don't argue with that. Anyhow, I think what I'll do now, I'll call that part 1. I'll have a bit of a tidy up, and then I'll make part 2 of the 20,000 view special. So, hope you enjoyed part 1. Please keep an eye out for part 2. And please like and subscribe. With any ideas or thoughts on these old engines or any questions, please fire away. Bye for now.